Right now, though, look who's back from Australia. Yeah, time to check in with CTV Science and Tech specialist Dan Riskin. I wasn't sure if you were going to bust that out or not.
Yeah,
but
that's as good as my Australian accent goes.
That's as good as it got.
It starts with a good day and ends
I'm
with
sure
good
you
day.
hit all the Crocodile Dundee hot spots that I was referring to.
Listen, we went for we tried to see as many crazy Australian things as possible. I was looking for deadly creatures left, right, and center.
What was the craziest?
One.
Yeah.
The only one deadly creature, we were looking in tide pools. So with my 11-year-old twins.
Yes.
And we're reaching into the tide pools and all this stuff and finding clams and things. And then my daughter's like, "Oh, a tentacle!" And I was like, "Get your hands out of there!" I lifted the rock out of there. It's called a blue-ringed octopus. It's like the deadliest octopus. They're venomous. They can kill you. And I'm like, "Okay, kids, let's stop playing in the tide pools. Let's go back and
tide pool.
It was right there on the beach. Yeah. And you talk to the locals. You're like, I found a blue-ringed octopus. Like, oh yeah.
Wow.
That's it. They're just like,
Damn
we live with those. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay.
Exactly.
Let's talk about what you're really here to talk about, though. And I'm so glad you had a great time because that's a once-in-a-lifetime type thing. But this is really interesting, especially as someone who drives as much as I do and listens to podcasts. Phone calls, not podcasts, make for bad drivers out on the road. That's good for me.
Yeah, so distracted driving, right?
Yes.
When you're talking on the phone, or even when you're hands-free talking on the phone, the likelihood of an accident goes up like fourfold.
That's interesting.
But when you're listening to the radio or when you listen to a podcast, you don't see that increase. Why is that? Well, this new study looked at, basically, it didn't involve cars at all. It was just people looking at a screen, and then a dot would move, and they either had to do it when they were talking to somebody, just without holding a phone, just hands-free conversation, or when they were listening to a podcast, or a control where they weren't doing anything. And the podcast was the same as being completely focused on driving. It doesn't affect your reaction time or your accuracy, but when you're in that conversation, it just cognitively pulls you out of the moment. So this really does just drive home the point that listening to somebody talking to you is different from being engaged in a conversation.
You know, it's so funny, and I don't want to make this about me, but I do, sometimes when I make phone calls to my brother or my parents on my way home from work, it's like I need to actually have a conversation to stay awake. You know, this shift can kind of be a grind and sleep and everything else that I really, because listening to a podcast can kind of, nice voices, it can wash over you in a different way. So I need that call to stay a little more dialed in on a conversation that I'm a participant to.
It's cognitively harder.
Yeah, you
can feel it.
Okay, fascinating. This is great too. A Canadian, of course, connection to all this. Artemis 2 could launch as soon as, I think, the opening day of the Olympics.
February 6th.
Right? And so Jeremy Hansen.
Olympics, schmolympics. Let's go to the moon.
Exactly,
This is very exciting. So this past weekend on Saturday, NASA spent about 12 hours moving this rocket from the place where they put it together inside this big hangar. It's called the vehicle assembly area. They moved it out to the launch pad. And so it took 12 hours to move it just the 4 miles to get there, going less than a mile an hour the whole way. But it's in place. And this is what happened with the Artemis 1 mission, right? The uncrewed, when they sent a thing around and went around the moon and came back without anybody on board. When they did that, they moved it out to the rocket launch pad. They had to move it back a couple times because of bad weather and because of some helium leak. So it's not a for sure, but if things go well, the earliest possible launch date is February 6th, and we'll be watching to see because Jeremy Hansen's all ready to go.
Nice to get the CanCon in there as well. Unfortunately, Dan, we're tight on time, so we can't talk about the beauty of movie scenes and how it takes less brain energy, but that's the highlight of that study. So, hey,
there you go.
It's a highlight to have you back.
It's a highlight to be back.
We'll see you back here next week.
Right on.